Hi there, welcome to Oakland Side 510. I'm Tasneem Raja, editor-in-chief of the Oakland Side, Oakland's independent, nonprofit newsroom. We spend most of our time on this show covering Oakland's hardest problems. Budget gaps, high crime rates, the barriers to keeping people in their homes. That work matters, but it is not the whole picture. Today, we're bringing you a whole episode of good news from around Oakland. The encouraging, the surprising, the genuinely exciting. You'll hear about a rare moment of unity in Oakland schools over cell phones, a significant drop in deadly traffic crashes, a beloved Oakland institution that came back from the dead, a big milestone in the city's long, complicated effort to reform its police department, movement, finally, on the future of the Coliseum, and a number that Oakland hasn't seen in more than a decade. Fewer people are living here without a home. No headlines this week, just good news with honest caveats and context where they belong. We will link to everything in the show notes. But first, a word from a local company supporting this show. Looking for workspace in Oakland? Check out WeWork's two locations, 1111 Broadway in City Center, just steps away from BART, and 2201 Broadway, a beautifully designed Art Deco space just a few blocks away. Between the two, you will find flexible workspaces, meeting rooms, and a vibrant community with regular events and opportunities to connect, whether you're an individual or a growing team. Book a tour at WeWork.com. Let's get into our good news today. First up is Ashley McBride, our education reporter. Ashley, you've got a story about cell phones in Oakland schools and what you described as a rare moment of agreement. Can you tell us what's happening?
Yeah, sure. So this August, when students head back to school, phones are going away for the entire day. Kids will hand them in when they get to school, and they won't get them back until the last bell. And this isn't just for during class. It's in passing periods. It's lunch the whole day from bell to bell.
Wow.
It comes out of a new state law that told every California district to do something about phones at school. And Oakland decided to go all the way with a full day ban across every public school in the district.
Wow. You called this, as I said, a rare moment of alignment. What does that mean?
Yeah, so on a lot of big issues in Oakland schools, people are pretty divided. The board can be divided. But on this one, the school board, parents, and teachers were largely on the same page. When the board took it up, the public comments coming in from residents were overwhelmingly in favor of this. And in a survey, the vast majority of district administrators backed the full day version.
So why? What is driving all this agreement? What problems are people hoping to fix by banning phones at school?
So it's a few things, and they go beyond just grades. The most basic one is distractions. A teacher at Oakland Tech told us that without a phone rule, kids just aren't paying attention. They miss something, and then they ask again about it later. It eats into class time.
Sure.
And the numbers are kind of staggering. One Oakland Tech teacher said her students were averaging something like 10 to 12 hours a day on their phones last year.
Oh, no.
She wrote a comment saying that so much screen time isn't just bad for kids learning, it's bad for their emotional health and how connected they feel to each other. And that came from a lot of parents too. Their worry was not just about academics. It was that when kids are all on their phones, they stop talking to each other. And that's a skill they're going to need for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. Actually, I know you went really deep into this with our high school fellows over the last few months. And you got to both see and hear about what phone use actually looks like in Oakland classrooms, up close and personal. What does it actually look like?
Right. So I worked with two fellows, one who went to Oakland Tech and one at Oakland High. And they told me that in their classes, students are just on their phones all the time. The teacher might be giving a lesson and ask a question, and there's no engagement from students because they're all looking at their phones, or they have AirPods in and they're listening to something and they're just not engaged at all.
And there's a safety piece to this as well, as I learned from your reporting.
There definitely is. The district's head of safety told us that phones can actually make conflicts worse. When there's a fight at school, it gets recorded, the video goes up on social media, and then no one feels like they can back down. Or kids get into an altercation at school and then they call family members or other people who then come up to the school to try to get involved, and it escalates.
Yeah.
So part of the hope is that taking phones out of the day takes some of the heat out of it.
Now, some Oakland schools have already been doing this. What are they seeing?
So that's the encouraging part. All OUSD middle and high schools already had some sort of policy on the books, but they varied as to whether they were full bell to bell or whether they would let students get their phones back in between classes. Life Academy is one of the schools that already had a full bell to bell policy, and the principal there called it the best thing they've done. He said students are way more engaged with school and with each other. One Oakland High teacher was honestly dreading it at first, but she came around. She told us she worries a lot less now about cheating and about online bullying.
Now, that all being said, I imagine some students are not thrilled with this.
Right. Students are more split. Some feel a ban is a little patronizing, especially the older ones. Some worry about what could happen in an emergency. Others think their teachers should trust them to put their phones away. Many other students are in favor, though. And there are exceptions built in for emergencies and medical needs. But the broad picture is a lot of agreement that this is worth trying.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thanks, Tessim.
Next is Azucena Racia, our arts and community reporter. Azucena, you've got a real Oakland comeback story this week. Youth Radio is back. For people who don't know it, tell us what youth radio is.
Yeah, so Youth Radio is an Oakland institution. It trains young people of color in media, music, podcasting, design, and it gives them a platform to tell their own stories. It was founded back in 1993 to, in the founder's words, hand the mic to young people. It operates out of downtown in a building they've owned since 2007. Over the years, it's launched some really incredible careers. For example, there's KQED's culture reporter, Pendarvis Harsha. He came through the program. So did the late Euphoria actor Angus Cloud.
And I know from your reporting that it has had a rough few years.
Yeah, it did. So the organization ran into some serious financial trouble tied to an expansion into Chicago. By the fall of 2024, it couldn't make payroll, then it finally closed its doors that November. A few years ago, it had rebranded as YR Media along the way, and for 2 years, it was just dark. No one was in the building.
Okay, so what's the good news?
So they reopened. They announced it on Monday with a video of staff literally unlocking the building in downtown.
Wow.
And they've gone back to the original name, Youth Radio. It's running on a small scale right now, pretty lean staff, a few media instructors, some board members, and a handful of consultants. But the most encouraging part is this. Students are back in the building. 2 groups arrived this week, one of high schoolers and one of young adults.
That is great to hear. How did they pull this off after basically closing?
So when I talked to the founder, she told me that there was a lot of debt that they had to clear first. And what struck me was that there was so much support for the organization. She said help came from places they didn't expect. Their bank, their insurance company, and a lot of alumni who were eager for them to come back. People who'd come through the program showed up to help bring it back and keep the organization in ownership of that downtown building. The new director put it carefully. She said they're prioritizing the organization's survival above everything else and growing slowly and with intention.
So it's a comeback, but it is a cautious comeback.
Exactly. Nobody's pretending that the hard part is over, but the way the director framed it, they're taking the essence of what the radio was and letting a new group of staff and young people build something new out of it. After 2 years of being closed, that's just a really good thing to see in downtown.
I agree. Thank you, Azucena.
Thank you for having me.
Now here is Jose Formoso, our road safety reporter. Jose, you cover safety on Oakland's streets, and a lot of your coverage can be frustrating, even tragic. But you have a genuinely encouraging story this time. What's the news?
So there's a new report out from something called the Safe Oakland Streets Initiative, and the headline number is really striking. Deadly crashes in Oakland dropped to 23 last year. Back in 2020 and again in 2022, that number was 36. So that is a big move in the right direction. And the city says Oakland's drop in traffic deaths was steeper than the state average and also steeper than the national one.
What is the Safe Oakland Streets Initiative? I don't think a lot of people will have heard of that.
It's not well known. It's a city program that started in 2022 in the middle of a really bad year for fatal crashes that we started covering that year, actually. And it's basically several parts of the city working together, the transportation department, the police department, a couple others like the equity department. And the goal they've set is pretty bold. They want to get traffic deaths in Oakland all the way down to 0 by 2042.
Wow. So what is working? What's actually driving this drop in deaths?
A few things. Last year, on top of regular street maintenance and filling in potholes on really bad roads, the city also finished 20 major street projects. These are the ones that are really big, each costing over $100,000. Some added new bike lanes. Some were what they call complete streets, where they add speed humps or narrow the road to slow cars down.
Yeah.
And several were big paving jobs. The other piece of this is the speed cameras and the speed camera program, which we've talked about before. They're up and running now, ticketing a lot of drivers. And at least based on conversations we've had with locals who've gotten tickets or warnings, it does look like people are starting to slow down on the streets where those cameras are.
I am one of them. Now, this is a good news episode, but Jose, I know you and you're reporting well enough to know that there's probably a but coming here.
Yeah, there's always a but when Oakland roads and street safety are concerned. We always remind people that the city had nearly 70 years of focus on facilitating driving exclusively, which then had the effect of encouraging speeding and such. But with the news we've talked about here today, there are a couple of interesting buts in this case. The first is the equity portion of it. The city's own data shows that Black and Latino residents are still way overrepresented among the people killed on Oakland's roads.
Yeah.
Over the last several years, Black residents made up more than 40% of those traffic deaths, and the most dangerous streets, International, Bancroft, run right through the neighborhoods where a lot of those residents live.
And we know that not everyone is sold on the speed cameras.
Exactly. Some residents argue that the cameras put the burden on people who can least afford a ticket. Now, there is a fine reduction for low-income drivers, but as one former council member put it, a $50 fine knocked down to $25 is still a real hit for a family already stretched thin on rent and groceries, especially this year, as we know. Prices have gone up.
So where does all this leave us? Are things really getting better?
I think the honest read on this is that the one that the city gave to us, which are that things are a little bit better than they were. But as the transportation official who presented this report said, there's really no acceptable number of people dying on our street. 23 is too much. Yeah. So it's a progress with a lot of road left.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jose.
Thanks, Destiny.
Next up, I've got Rosalind Romero, our public safety reporter. Rosalind, you recently reported on a milestone that a lot of people thought would never come. It's also one where not everyone agrees if it's actually good news. Walk us through what's going on.
Yeah, it's a complicated one. So listeners may know that the Oakland Police Department has been under the watchful eye of a federal judge for 23 years. That was the consequence of a scandal involving a group of West Oakland police officers who were beating residents and planting evidence on people.
Yeah.
Those residents sued the city and OPD in a massive civil rights lawsuit. To settle that, Oakland agreed to put its police under a federal court supervision with this list of reforms it had to complete. To state the obvious, it's difficult for Oakland and OPD to be under this kind of federal watchdog scrutiny. And it's embarrassing that they haven't been able to comply with all the reforms necessary to bring that oversight to an end.
Yeah, this all started, as you said, 23 years ago. This is not what you want for your city.
Right. No, it's not. And to put it into perspective, this is the longest running police reform effort of its kind in the country. 5 different mayors and 8 police chiefs came and went without finishing it.
Why has it taken so long?
It's taken so long partly because OPD has kept stumbling.
Yeah.
Over the years, there have been scandal after scandal. And a few years ago, the department got really close to the end, but then a wave of misconduct cases knocked it back off track. So this is a department that has gotten people's hopes up before and then let them down.
Okay, now hit us with the good news.
Yeah, so a federal judge has now said that Oakland could be out from under that oversight as soon as September. There were 51 improvements or changes that OPD had to make. And as of May, the department's federal monitor says OPD has met every single one. Some of those reforms include timely reporting of uses of force, addressing racial profiling in traffic stops, and disciplining officers consistently and fairly.
So after 23 years, after the kinds of improvements you just mentioned, the federal government might finally stop scrutinizing OPD's every move. And as you reported, depending on who you ask, that is either a win or something to be worried about.
Exactly. For some Oakland residents, the end of oversight is proof that the department has finally cleaned up its act, right? But for plenty of other residents, after 23 years and all those scandals, there is this deep skepticism that the reforms will hold once the federal monitor stops watching. There's a real fear the department will just slide back to old habits. For one thing, the city's police commission, which is Oakland's civilian watchdog over the police department, is struggling. The commission is supposed to pick up the slack when the federal court leaves the picture, becoming the main oversight entity for OPD. But as we've reported, the city council just cut the commission's budget.
Not great timing there. So this is less straight good news and maybe more news of big progress with big asterisks.
That's a fair way to put it. The milestone is real. Whether it's ultimately a good thing remains to be seen. There's a court hearing scheduled for the end of September, and that's when the federal judge could hand Oakland full control of its police back. City leaders are hopeful the progress will hold and that the Civilian Police Commission can help keep the department accountable. But just about everyone agrees that the hard part isn't getting here, it's staying here.
Thanks, Rosalind.
Thank you, Tasneem.
Next up, I have Eli Wolf, one of our City Hall reporters. Now, Eli, you have been covering the complicated Coliseum saga for years. Catch us up on where things stand and why Oakland should maybe be getting its hopes up.
Yeah, so listeners may or may not know that the Coliseum, the enormous sports and event facility where the A's and the Raiders played, is owned by both the city of Oakland and Alameda County. And as everyone knows, both the city and the county have had big financial problems. And in recent years, they've been trying to come up with fast ways to add millions of dollars to their bank accounts. So back in 2024, the city tried to sell its stake in the Coliseum quickly to patch a huge hole in that year's budget. That transaction got bogged down and it created a massive headache for city leaders.
Yeah, we got into that in depth in last week's episode on Oakland's never-ending money problems, if you want to hear more about that, listeners.
Right. And Alameda County, which owns the other half of the Coliseum, is also trying to get rid of its stake, which is still all tangled up with the A's sports team. So both the city and the county want to sell the property to this private developer based in Oakland called the African American Sports and Entertainment Group, AASEG. That group wants to buy it, but there have been a ton of delays in actually completing the sale. So this has all been really slow going, which is frustrating to a lot of residents and city leaders. But now there's some potentially good news on the county front. So last month, the county board of supervisors approved a term sheet, which is basically a roadmap for finally finalizing a deal with AASCG. And the vision behind this is big. It's potentially billions of dollars going into housing, businesses, and new development on that 112-acre site in East Oakland, right next to BART and the airport. People who showed up to speak at that last county meeting called it a generational opportunity. And here's what's really interesting. That new term sheet also revealed that a different third party wants to buy the arena, the indoor part of the giant Coliseum complex where the Warriors used to play, which could add even more money into the mix. This potential buyer is offering north of $100 million, which would be split between the city and the county.
I mean, that would be huge. basically what you're saying is the arena, part of this bigger property that both the city and the county have been desperate to sell for years, is suddenly the belle of the ball.
Right. This is the fun new twist. Out of nowhere, the arena has quietly become a real moneymaker again. It's been booking major pop acts and drawing big crowds. Ariana Grande was there last month.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, in a story that for years was about Oakland struggling to offload these properties, suddenly people are fighting over part of it.
But the county deal, I know, still isn't done.
Right. That's not done. What the county approved is non-binding, and there are real sticking points still to work out, especially around who's on the hook for environmental cleanup. The whole thing could still fall apart. This deal has come close before installed. So the honest framing here is meaningful progress with potentially big new upsides for Oakland, with the biggest pieces still ahead.
An interesting story that just keeps on going. Thank you, Eli.
Thanks, Tasneem.
Last up is Natalie Ornstein, our housing reporter. Natalie, you've got a story that I think a lot of Oakland residents have been waiting a long time to hear. What is happening?
Well, so for the first time in more than a decade, homelessness in Oakland actually went down.
Yeah.
So every 2 years, the city and county send out hundreds of volunteers to count people living on the streets. This is called the point-in-time count, and this year's count found that Oakland's homeless population dropped by about 20% since the last count in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
To put that in perspective, we've been watching those numbers climb basically every count for many years. There was a nearly 50% jump between 2017 and 2019, for example. So a 20% drop is genuinely significant.
It's great to hear. What seems to be driving it?
So city leaders point mainly to supportive housing, apartments set up specifically for people coming off the streets with services attached. Oakland has opened a lot of these units in recent years using funding from both a local bond measure and a state program. The city now has about 1,200 of these units, with another 1,000 on the way. There's also been some successful work on the prevention side, helping households that are basically on the verge of losing their homes stay there. The city says it's helped more than 1,000 households stay housed in 2025 through this program. The vast majority of those residents said they would have lost their homes without that support.
Wow. So things are moving. But as has been the case with a lot of the stories we've explored here today, it's not totally time to just celebrate and move on, right?
Yeah, I would say not even close. There are still more than 4,400 people without housing in Oakland. The county head of housing put it plainly. He said 8,200 unhoused people in Alameda County is 8,200 too many.
Yeah.
And it's also worth noting a few things about the point-in-time count itself. It is considered the best estimate of homelessness that we have, but it's still just a snapshot of the people that volunteers can see and document in a single morning. So it's widely considered, especially among unhoused communities, to be an undercount. And there are racial equity dimensions here that can't be ignored. The majority of Oakland's homeless population is Black, whereas Black residents make up about 22% of the city overall.
Yeah.
Mayor Lee often acknowledges this. She calls it a product of decades of redlining, disinvestment, displacement. And practically speaking, the city's own plan to cut unsheltered homelessness in half over the next 5 years would require a lot more money than Oakland currently has. So this is a real turning point, but the road ahead is long.
Well, Natalie, thank you for bringing us something encouraging on the housing front with eyes wide open.
Thanks, Tasneem.
That's this week's episode of Oakland Side 510. Thank you for joining us for something different today. As journalists, it's our job to strive to capture the whole picture. And the stories we shared today are part of that picture in Oakland. Thank you to Ashley McBride, Rosalind Romero, Eli Wolf, Jose Formoso, Natalie Ornstein, and Azucena Racia for sharing good news about Oakland with us today. Thank you also to Darwin Bongram and Esther Kaplan, who oversee all of these reporters' stories and their reporting plans with enormous rigor and talent. You can find all of the stories we talked about today at oaklandside.org and in the show notes. Sign up for our daily newsletter to get our reporting delivered straight to your inbox. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen. Share it with your friends and neighbors. The more people who listen, the more we keep it going. This episode was produced by Mark Nieto and hosted by me, Oakland Side Editor-in-Chief Tasneem Raja. On behalf of our entire newsroom, thank you for showing up for Oakland. We'll see you next week.